Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome our Montanaro Home Church. Let us prepare our heart to heaven. Let's sing a song. Holy song number 46, America the Beautiful. 46, America the Beautiful. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for pilgrim feet who stern in passion stress, a thoroughfare for freedom be across the wilderness. America, America, God mend thy every flaw, confirm thy soul in self-control, thy liberty in law. Oh, beautiful for heroes true in liberating strife, who more than self their country love, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy glory find, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. Oh, beautiful for patron June that sees beyond the years, thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Thank you. Let us stand up and greet the Heavenly Father, God, and True Parents. Today is August 18, 2019, Sunday morning. Let us bow to Heavenly Father, God, and True Parents. Yongbe, hello. Join me in prayer. 하시는 하나님 아버지 참 부모님 안녕하십니까? We are so grateful to come in front of you. The past week was very busy, welcome people and hosting, and we have a great time to pray and talk and sing. Without the relationship, we feel lonely. The most source of the love, source of the truth, coming from you. You are the living for eternity, without time and space. We can't imagine no space and time. How could it be? I can never imagine. but it means that your love is eternal to the all children, and also you have a heart of parent to children get well, and you don't have any wall or barrier for the all children. We are grateful to meeting with you. We came from the all kind of background and culture and language. Still we have in this earth language and culture and all different religious and all kind of racism and barrier is dividing us. But through the returning Messiah, we overcome the all barrier and races and the language and the culture, centering your truth and true love, and made it the new culture we cannot even thought about. That's why so hard. Your word is clear, and but our children, we are the children, was not growing to see the your word. It's so hard. Even we never dreamed about. But through the Messiah, we can begin to understand the true word, centering true love, true life, true lineage, and your language. You choose the Korea, and the Korean people was chosen people to bring your message, centering Christ. We can see that the Korean history was so many times the other country tried to dominate and take resource and slavery to the so many ways, and take away their right. Still right now in this world, just one country was divided because of your ideology was different, and the people's thinking is totally different. Now your final destiny of the unification, centering the true parent and true parent thought and parentism, and also the battling up the right and good and evil. Please guide us today. We can reflect our life and to participate in your providence, and we can clearly understand your goal, and we can adapt it and digest it, understanding, and putting our life to the all the same manner to win the our battle, and we can become the beautiful son and daughter of you. Please guide, take challenge and become grown up and make success. We can have a clear goal, internal goal and external goal to achieve in the lifetime. Please guide us. Please guide the pastor, can give us your sight and message, through that we can cooperate and work with it, and maintain, and we can progress. Please guide us. Thank you very much. We love you. We love true parents. We love the three kingship. We want to attend well and receive your guidance today. Please bless this day. I report in the name of Raman and Tamiko Montanaro. Bless Central family. Aju. Amen. Thank you. Please welcome Pastor Montanaro. Welcome.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning. So I have a lot of different ideas today that I'm going to try to tie together into one sermon. I'll give you some titles that I was thinking about. Two titles that I thought about were, Are you ready for guests? Are you ready for guests? That's, I think, going to be our title today. But maybe a subtitle is Expunging Satan from My Soul. Wow, how do they connect? And I want to share a couple things with you just as background. Just a couple days ago, my youngest son had his birthday, and he had guests over. We had to clean the house and everything like that. And it's very hard to get ready for guests, isn't it? To clean a house. I've been serving. I've been being a waiter and serving recently, and there's so much work that goes in behind the scenes to get ready for guests to come. The food, of course, has to be perfect. If it's undercooked or overcooked, if it's cold, people don't like it. They want something that's fresh and hot and served to them right as soon as it's ready. But that's hard, because if your waiters are serving different tables, they don't have time to get to the kitchen and grab that food and bring it out right away. Sometimes it's not perfect. Also, think about it. If there's a hair on your plate, do you want to eat that food? Even if there's one little hair, it's gross and you don't want to eat it. If there's spots on the silverware or the glasses, you feel uncomfortable if the silverware is not clean. In other words, as a guest, you feel uncomfortable if people haven't done the work to get ready for you, right? If you come in a home and you see everything's messed up, or there's underwear on the floor or something, or socks, you feel uncomfortable. You can't say anything about the things that are wrong. You can't, as a guest, you can't speak. And so, as a host, you have to really go bend over backwards to think about how can I make everything perfect for my guest. And, that's just the food end of it. There's so many other things too. The cleanliness, the atmosphere, the music, but all of that is external. And there's an internal part of welcoming a guest. If you're angry, if you come in a house and people are yelling at each other, don't you feel uncomfortable? You don't want to be there. You want to let them finish their argument. You don't want to intervene in that situation. So if there's an uncomfortable feeling between people, also, that's not welcoming to guests. I thought about on MFT, National MFT. MFT is an acronym. It's an abbreviation for Mobile Fundraising Teams. And we would have these mobile fundraising teams, MFT, which in the early days of our church in America, in the 1970s and 1980s, that's how our church made money. We would, all of us were pretty young, we didn't have families, we would gather in teams, we would do traveling teams sometimes. Sometimes you'd stay in a center and you'd just travel for the day to different towns or parts of a city and fundraise. And you'd get dropped off in the morning and you'd get picked up every couple of hours, and you'd have lunch or snack or something, and then you go out again. And sometimes you go late at night even. You go on to these, we call them strips. In Los Angeles, in large cities, there are sometimes large boulevards that are lined with fast food restaurants and bars and stores that are still open. And you'd get dropped off at one end of a strip, and you'd run down doing every business that was open until maybe 45 minutes later your captain would drive by and pick you up. And we would fundraise sometimes until 1 or 2 in the morning on a Friday or Saturday night. It was intense. And you had a lot of good experiences. But always, in the beginning of the day, in the morning, nobody wanted to get out of the van. It was just classic. You just sit there cringing with your product, and you were comfortable. You just woken up, you got cleaned up, had breakfast, and you were in your own zone. You didn't want to go out and meet people, because they're your guest. Even though you're coming into their house or whatever, you're the one who has to be like a host to take care of that person. And you had to get your own mind ready. And it was so hard. Every day was the same. It was like No matter how much money you made the day before, no matter how many good experiences you had the day before, no matter how many good people you met, or how great the day ended, the next morning, you'd sit in that van and you were like, no, don't call this. You'd be driving down it, you know the captain was getting ready. This is somebody's area. He was driving down a street looking at it and seeing, is this enough area for somebody? And you were praying, not me, not me, not me. Everybody was, not me, not me, not me, not me. You just wanted one more minute in the van. One more minute of your own safe space. One more minute of your own comfort zone, you know? And then your name would be called. Ram, this is for you. You're like, no, no. You know, and the van, the door would open and you'd get out. And you have your product. And you're just like, and to talk to that first person was always hell. It was always, every day. It was like, wait a minute, can't we at least have a carryover? You know, from the day before? Please, once in a while? Never. Every day was hard. And I thought about that a lot. Why? At the end of the day, you were soaring, you were flying. I would be running from business to business. I would come in with a big beaming smile into these bars and restaurants. People were shocked, whoa, what a smile. And they would just buy and buy and buy. It was like an amazing experience, you know, at the end of the day. The next morning, I couldn't get out of the van. Every day. And it was weird. You know, it's just weird. You'd think that there'd be some carryover, but there wasn't. And I think it's tied to the same idea of get guests. Doesn't your house get dirty every day? Yes. You know, you drop a sock, you know, there's hair on the floor, there's things. And all those things gather together to make it uncomfortable for a guest. Our soul accumulates dirt. Our soul is still not true. We're not true men and women yet. We have not expunged Satan from our souls. And so on an internal level, we're almost never ready to receive guests. We're selfish and we're self-centered and we're living in our own comfort zone. And we know that we would make a person uncomfortable. And we don't want to make someone uncomfortable, so we don't want to have guests. We don't want to meet new people. We don't want to welcome people to our soul. And so you have to polish your soul. And that's why when you got out of that van every day, the first hour or two, you would spend greeting people. Hi, hi, hi. And finally you start to loosen up. And you'd get loose and you'd finally relax and you'd kind of like polish your soul up. And then you were ready to take care of people that day. And then you'd start making money. You'd never make money the first 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 hours of the day. Depending on how long it took you to get rid of your discomfort. But as soon as you got rid of it, then you could start making money and you forgot yourself. And it was fun. But the end of the day would come, you'd go to sleep, you'd wake up in the morning, and it would be starting all over again. And it was Father's way actually of training us. True Father talked about MFT many times, about a training course. And he talked about many things that didn't seem like they tied together, but after a while you began to see links between all these different things. And that's what I'm going to try to do for you today. This idea of guests and getting ready for guests. And the idea of cleaning up your soul and getting rid of that, and serving in a restaurant and the idea of that. These are all different ideas, but they tie together. Father also talked about guests and visitors to your home being like God is visiting your home. You should treat guests, Father said, like they're God. And this brings another element into it, doesn't it? The idea that we are not really ready to welcome God to our souls. And we can live our whole lives not welcoming God. And that's why guests are precious. Because when a guest is coming to your home, you get ready, you clean up, because you care more about that guest's point of view than you do about God. Because you can't see God. But who should we care about more, God or a guest? Certainly a guest is a physical person. We care about them, we see them, we want to care about them. But really, a guest is just a visible form of God. So when we clean the house, frantically getting ready for a guest who's coming, they're arriving in 10 minutes, quickly! You know, you're running around cleaning the house. And your soul, getting your soul ready, like that first hour or 2 hours on MFT getting out of the van. Or even myself, when I come here to Sunday service, getting ready to face you at the camera and you here, sitting here, and getting ready to face people and speak to people is a preparation period, getting ready for facing the public. Father really felt it was very important that we had a public mind. He talked about that many times, having a public mind. Not being a selfish mind, like a self-centered mind, a private mind, but a public mind. Father lived his whole life publicly like that. But that's not easy. You forget yourself like that. It's not easy. So, this idea of getting ready for a guest is also getting ready for God. Being ready to welcome a guest is getting ready to welcome God. Expunging selfishness from my mind so that I'm ready to face the public with an open mind, an open heart, bright and cheerful. That's also the right mind to meet God. A selfish, dark mind that's angry and bitter is not going to welcome God. But every day you have to do it again. Because every day we gather, we accumulate dust. Doesn't our house get dusty every day? Your house gets dusty. You put your finger, oh my gosh, how did all this dust come here? You know? And there's hairs and there's dust and socks and shoes and mess and clutter. Every day. And every day you have to clean. Every day when we go to the restaurant, and as servers, you get ready, the tables. You have to set everything up again. Even though you try to get everything ready the night before as much as you can. And that's a good idea, actually. Every night to close your day with prayer. To really end the day offering it to God. To go to bed with a clear mind. So when you wake up, you're not carrying clutter from the day before. But we have mental clutter, don't we? Can you welcome a guest to a cluttered house? Do you feel comfortable? Do they feel comfortable? Can you welcome a guest to a cluttered mind? Can your guest feel comfortable coming into your mind if your mind is cluttered with many thoughts? Clearing the clutter in your mind, finding order in your mind, finding peace, requires that we meet God. And that's why prayer is important. To get rid of the clutter in my mind. To clean and polish my mind so that it's ready to welcome guests and to welcome God. Again, I want to talk about my son, about his birthday. There are two things that I want to mention about his birthday. His actual birthday was 13 years ago. Father had talked about, this ties in with the whole message, and I thought it was interesting that his birthday, nothing seems to be disconnected. Father had been talking about 15 years ago, before he was born. Father always found new ways of expressing truth. But also there were changes and developments in God's providence, and he was letting us know those by showing new things, new words. One of the words that Father coined was high noon settlement. Settlement at high noon. He talked about high noon because at high noon the sun is directly overhead, especially on the equator. On the equator at the summer, the vernal equinox and the autumnal equinox, when the earth is exactly perpendicular to the sun. On the equator, the sun rises directly in the east, goes straight over your head, and sets directly in the west 12 hours later. It's a 12-hour day on the equator. Here in the northern hemisphere, we never see that. The sun is always slightly in the south. And the tropics of Capricorn and the tropics of Cancer are the lines where on the summer equinox, June 21st or 22nd, on that tropic of Capricorn, if you're standing there, the sun is directly overhead. But we're far north of that. I think that passes through, the tropic of Capricorn passes through Florida, southern the Keys or something like that. Or Hawaii, a little bit north of Hawaii. So where we are, we never see the sun directly overhead. But the idea is there, that at noon, At least the sun is as close to being overhead as it can be. Our son Junsung was born at 12:50, something like that, which was, because of daylight savings time, was actually high noon. He was born at high noon. And he was born right after Father began talking about high noon. They said, why high noon? Father wanted us to live with no shadow. He said, in other words, we shouldn't be over here where God is over there, and I'm sort of in an angular relationship with God. We're like, I kind of connect to God, but I'm also connecting to Satan. He wanted us to live directly under God. So God's love would shine directly down on us. We live directly under God. No influence from Satan. And that was what he called high noon settlement, living at high noon. No shadow. So our son was born at high noon. He's the only one of our children born at high noon. And as if to confirm this, on his 8-day ceremony, Father made a ceremony on the 8th day of birth, after birth. So counting one at the birthday, and then so like a week later, we would have a special ceremony of offering the child to God, making sure that we as parents were ready to really welcome this child and to really offer this child's life to God, and to be offering ourselves also as parents so that the child would be taken care of properly. So it's a special ceremony we do in our church, 8-day ceremony. On the 8-day ceremony, we were in Bridgeport, and we lived in a very congested urban area right next to the campus of the University of Bridgeport, about a quarter mile from the ocean. And we had a road going right in front of our house, a very busy street actually, going in front of our house that went right into the campus. We were doing this 8-day ceremony at around 7 in the morning. And we looked out the window at the end of the ceremony, and there was a crane, a beautiful crane, standing in the middle of the road. Just standing there. Cars were coming, and he wouldn't move. The cars had to drive around him. This is insane. Cranes are very sensitive about noise and people. They don't want to. He was standing in the middle of the road right in front of our house. And cars had to stop, and they were like this, and they were driving around him, and he wasn't moving. And he stood there for like 5-10 minutes. And we went out of the house to look at this crane. And then he walked a little bit, and then he flew away. And I felt it was a sign, because the crane is a symbol of marriage and family in Asia. The two cranes marry for life. Cranes marry for life. And so these two cranes flying together are a symbol of longevity in marriage, and they're a good symbol. And Father would put like beautiful, cranes or different things like this, or symbols of harmony and beauty in marriage. So to have a crane appear in front of our house, blocking traffic, was weird. It was just really weird. And it was right on his 8-day ceremony. So I felt this idea of high noon settlement, this idea of living with God, this idea of welcoming guests, being ready to welcome guests. And then last night in my prayer, this idea of expunging Satan from my soul. To expunge means to obliterate completely, wipe out completely. Can we get to the point where we're ready to welcome guests all the time? Wouldn't that be wonderful? To live our lives so that we're ready to welcome guests. Because honestly, if a guest sees a hair on the floor or a sock on a chair, but your heart is loving and warm and happy to see them, they can forgive them. They know that there's always some clutter and there's always some mess. But if your heart is ready to welcome them, but you're running down in a t-shirt and shorts, and you didn't comb your hair yet, but you run down, welcome, hi! And you're so happy to see them. And you genuinely are happy to see them. A guest can overlook the other imperfections. Of course, we want our house to be beautiful and welcoming and accommodating, and no one does a better job than my wife of cleaning and cleaning and cleaning. It's amazing. I think women are more concerned with the house than men. Let's be honest, guys. Right? If you look at a girl's room, I mean, there's exceptions, but I've seen, some girls can be a little messy, but many girls are pretty clean and neat, and they like things beautiful, and they clean and polish and make a house beautiful. Men tend to be a bit more messy, I think. They care less about the external environment. But they do care a lot about the heart. You know, I think men care a lot about heart. So I think that's a nice compliment, husband and wife. You know, getting our heart ready, our love ready, and getting the house ready, getting the home ready to welcome guests. That's why it's really nice, a husband and wife team, to welcome, do home church. But I hope that our home is always ready to welcome you and to welcome you, to welcome anyone to come to our home, that our heart is ready. Are you ready to welcome guests all the time? Are you living at high noon all the time? Did you expunge Satan from your soul? Are you living with God only? Do you love God? Do you love God? If you love God, really, really love God, like my wife said in her prayer, we love you, Father. If you love God, you're ready to welcome guests anytime. Anytime. And, you know, I want to say that point, this idea of loving God. People say, I believe in God. Do you believe in God? Do you believe in Jesus? That's not enough. Satan believes in God. So is believing in God enough? No. Do you love God? Are you so happy to be with God that you don't want to be with anyone else? Because then you'll be able to find all the parts of your soul that are still tied together with Satan, with little knots. And you'll be able to untie those knots and let Satan go. Let Satan go. Expunge Satan from your soul. Because if you love God, you don't want anything to stop you from spending that time with God. Do you love God? That's the question. And if you love God, and you can love God like that. Not just believe in God, not just see God and everything, but love God. Then you'll live at high noon, no shadow. And you'll be ready to welcome guests anytime.
No, pretty much. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't come up anything right now.
Okay, join us in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, hi, we love you and we're grateful to be here together with you. And we pray that this sermon can be an offering to you, that our members and guests and friends who are watching all around the world can receive an inspiration in their heart and a spark in their heart to realize that we're only one step away from being able to be great home church pastors, parents of home church centers, by welcoming you, Father, as our number one guest in our heart, always and every time. To live with you, to love you, to keep you in our heart always and every time. So that with you in our heart, Father, we're ready to welcome anyone to our home. Father, I pray that we can welcome you to our heart, that you can be our number one guest, and that you can live with us forever and ever and ever, and that we can expunge Satan from our soul, get rid of Satan, so that we live at high noon with you, Father, directly overhead. I ask your blessing on this day. I pray for our brothers and sisters who are listening and watching all around the world. And I offer this report in the name of Raman and Tamiko Montanaro, a blessed central family. 축복 중심 가정 라만과 타미코 몬타나로 이름으로 보고드립니다. 아주. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Rama.